Well, hello. Welcome to the Nothing is Wasted podcast. I'm so grateful that you're joining me again today. Man, I'm grateful that you guys join us every single week to hear these stories of men and women of faith who are exercising resilience, hope in the midst of all hope seeming lost. And if you're here and you are feeling hopeless, I'm praying that you can borrow the hope of the men and women who have gone before you through this podcast. We have had over 400 episodes of the Nothing is Wasted podcast, which means 400 plus stories of people who are saying, hey, do not give up hope. Hang on. God's coming. He's got this. And I don't mean this as a pithy thing. I mean this. These are stories coming from the depths of crisis, from moments where they've been on their back and they do not think they're going to make it through. And yet God reaches in and he does not waste our pain. That's what the Nothing is Wasted podcast is all about. And friends, these are stories that follow the pattern of many stories. And that's that they don't start in a church pew. They don't start with a quiet prayer. They actually start with a considerable amount of resistance, with skepticism, with a posture that isn't a bended knee, but it's a clenched fist. And sometimes they start with a moment that's so terrifying you can't even explain it, except to say, something was after me. Someone came for me. And that's the case in today's conversation. Because my guest, Naeem Fazal, did not grow up with Jesus language, if you will. He didn't grow up in a Christian subculture. He grew up in Kuwait, in a Muslim home, navigating multiple worlds. On one hand, Pakistani roots, a Middle Eastern context, an Indian school on another hand, an English curriculum on yet another hand, and a very real sense of identity tied to faith and community. And when Naeem first heard about Jesus, it wasn't curiosity. It was met with a visceral reaction. He literally pinned his own brother against the wall when his brother came home and said, I'm a Christian now. So if you've ever thought God can't reach that person, or God can't reach me, or I'm too far gone, that person's too far gone, this episode is going to challenge that assumption in the best ways. Naeem is he's the pastor of Mosaic Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's also an author. And he and I got connected originally. I think you'll hear this in the conversation. Several years ago, I was at a pastor's gathering in Charleston, South Carolina, and we did a CrossFit workout together. And we have some really interesting memories of that. One of the guys who did a CrossFit workout with us ended up in the hospital the next day with rhabdo. It was an incredible time. It was also a really interesting time, but it was a very interesting beginning to a friendship that now we're able to share his story on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. And one of the things I love about Naeem is that he carries this rare combination. He's got this deep honesty and this spiritual clarity and a storyteller's gift for naming what's happening inside a human soul. You're going to hear this. I mean, it's like his words, he's gritty, but he also is, he's able to describe things in a way that it's a different perspective. So in this conversation, we talk about his journey from Islam to following Jesus and what it cost him relationally, what it cost him culturally, and why in many parts of the world, faith isn't just a private decision. It's actually a seismic shift that can change everything, which gives us perspective here in Western American culture where we think that faith can be a private thing, that it actually shouldn't be. It should be a seismic shift that changes everything. And so we talk about his new book, Tomorrow Needs You, Seeing Beauty When You Feel Hopeless. And I want you to hear that subtitle again. Seeing Beauty When You Feel Hopeless. Because that is exactly the lane that we live in here at Nothing is Wasted Ministries, where pain is real, grief is complex, and God is not intimidated by the wrestling. He's not taken aback when you come at him in all of your raw material. In fact, it's your It's your brokenness that becomes the raw material that God uses for your redemptive future. And one of the most striking moments of this conversation is when he describes what it meant for him to say, Jesus, save me. Because for many of us in Western Christianity, this phrase can become like really abstract, like this religious vocabulary that we repeat without feeling its weight. But Naeem's story reframes it. For him, save me wasn't a vague idea. It was actual desperation. It was rooted in fear. It was this collision between darkness that he was feeling creeping up and overtaking him and the authority of Jesus. And it leads to a bigger question that we explore in this conversation. Why do some people experience God in such tangible ways and others feel like God is silent? Naeem offers insight from his cross-cultural lens that I think will really expand your imagination. I know it's really helpful for me to begin to realize that the Bible in and of itself, Jesus came to an Eastern context. The Bible's written by Easterners. And yet we end up bringing our Western perspective into it, and we think that we hold the corner on the market in understanding God's word. And the reality is, one of my favorite podcasts is called the BEMA, B-E-M-A podcast. Marty Solomon talks about the very first episode, it might be episode 0 of it, how understanding scripture, you have to understand it through an Eastern lens and a Western lens. And that's like playing the piano with two hands. To understand it with only one lens, for instance, just an Eastern lens means you're playing just one side, maybe the bass clef of the piano, right? Which you can't decipher what that song is if you're only playing the bass clef of the piano. But if you're only playing the treble clef, it lacks a lot of its luster. It lacks a lot of its dimension. And so in order to really, truly get the fullness of what the composer is meaning in that song or that composition, you have to play with both the bass clef and the treble clef. And that's what it means to look at scripture from an Eastern mindset and a Western mindset. You see, scripture was colliding in a cultural moment in a time in history where Eastern mindsets were colliding with Western Hellenistic mindsets. And that's what I love about this conversation. It's because Naeem brings this Eastern perspective that he grew up in into our Western faith. And so it's just a really, really beautiful conversation. And before we jump into the interview, I just want to speak to the person who's listening to this who you feel conflicted. Because right now you feel like you love God, but you honestly are not sure that you can trust him right now. And can I just say, I completely understand. When I lost my wife in 2015, I felt the exact same way. God, I love you. I've seen your faithfulness in my life up to this point. Right now, this moment is shattering that faith that I have in your faithfulness because I'm not sure I can trust you anymore, that you would allow this to happen. And Naeem shares a line in this conversation about someone close to him who said, I love God, but I don't know if I can trust him. And I just really resonate with that. And maybe you resonate with that. And I want you to hear me say this. God is not offended by your honesty when you tell God that. And he's not threatened by your questions. And your wrestling is not proof of weak faith. It might actually be the doorway to intimacy that you've never known before. So as you listen to this, here's a simple invitation. I want you to hold this in your heart on the forefront of your mind. I want you to say, Jesus, I don't even know what to do with all of this, but would you show me your love here in this, where I'm at, what I'm dealing with? Show me your love here. Not answers. Don't ask for answers right now. Don't ask for certainty. Ask for his presence. Ask for his love. Because that, friends, is what will steady your fear. That's what's going to carry you when you feel like tomorrow feels impossible. Okay. Now, Nothing is Wasted Ministries. We want to help you as you're wrestling, as you're trying to decipher where you are on your pain path. You know, there is a pathway to your pain. You know, there's a framework to this. Not everybody's story is the same, and yet we all have to walk through the same waypoints or stages of our valley. And we want to help you discover where you are in the middle of your valley, what stage you're at, what kind of phase that you find yourself in. And we want to offer you resources and tools that will help you move to the next phase. And we're not promising poof. God doesn't say we're going to be healed and whole and poof, but it's usually a process. And there's a pathway that we each have to walk. But we want to be guides in your pathway. We want to meet you in your pain, provide a pathway through. And so if you go to nothingiswasted.com/start here, you'll find this kind of beta assessment that we've started to put together. We're going to continue to be changing this and reiterating this and stuff, but it's something we have really just begin to dial in together as a team, where we want to help you discover where you are on your pain path and how you can move to your next phase. Just taking that one simple step. So nothingiswasted.com/start here. If you've never taken this assessment, go do that. And it will immediately provide you some next steps for where you're at in your pain path. And hopefully you resonate with that. And we want your feedback on that. We're going to continue to iterate this and change this and evolve this. And because we really do want to just walk with you in this so that you can come up out of your valley, right? The only way out of it's through it. You can come up out of your valley and you can offer hope to other people. You can look back and become a guide to other people as well. So nothingiswasted.com/start here to go and answer those few questions and identify where you're at in your pain path. Well, Naeem, it is so great to have you on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. Thanks for joining me, my man.
Yeah, of course, man. Honored to do this. So looking forward to it.
It's always fun to know that we have these circles that overlap, that we've shared some memories together that we didn't even realize until we just got back on this call and the Lord's reconnected us. But it's cool to remember those things. Doing a CrossFit workout with you in the middle of blistering Charleston heat, that'll tie your souls together like nothing else.
Yes. I don't know why we're remembering it though. It's painful memory. I feel like with trauma, you're supposed to forget it, right?
That's so funny. You know what's funny? You said Murph, and I don't remember. I think I was so new to CrossFit at that time that I didn't even recognize it as Murph. And I think back and I'm like, you know what? That's right. I remember doing a whole bunch of pull-ups. I remember doing a whole bunch of air squats. I remember doing a whole bunch of push-ups. That tracks.
Yeah, hundreds, bro. Hundreds of them. I'm like, oh yeah. So it was fun times though.
That was good times. Well, man, the reason that you're here and the reason that you're carrying such an incredible message is because the Lord has done something so remarkable in your life. You wrote about it a while ago, your testimony, but I would love for people just to hear a little bit, first of all, about you. What is life like right now? But then I want to go back and I just want to hear, you've got an amazing testimony. I want to go back and let our listeners and viewers really get a glimpse into this. So tell us about your comment right now, like modern day context. What is life like for you? And then we'll jump back.
Okay. Well, right now my life is so interesting because I have two kids, Asher and Nura, boy and girl. And Asher's in college already, but Nura is a first semester, 4 weeks into college. The house is strangely, eerily quiet. And oh my gosh, nothing prepared me for her leaving. I mean, with Asher leaving, it's different with the boy, but it's also different with the first one, I feel like. But with Nura leaving, I was just like, just miss her. Oh my gosh. It was the worst.
Wow.
So all that to say, that's kind of my life right now in terms of, pastoring a church called Mosaic Church. Man, it's definitely a roller coaster. Amazing time, but then also very frustrating, but also very painful, but then also very exhilarating. All kinds of things, as you know, in ministry. But Ash and my wife and I have been married for like 25 years now. Wow. Going on 26 next year. So life is good, man. I mean, God's goodness has followed me all the days of my life. That is, I can say that for sure. Wow. So honestly,
man. Yeah. Well, I'm sure things are, I can't imagine how disorienting it is to kind of find yourself quote unquote empty nesting and going, how do I fill my time? What is it? Everything's silent, but I'm sure you're not having trouble filling your time and figuring out what to do.
No, it's not. It's just that, it's so different because I don't think it's really empty nesting. I don't believe that right now. Here's why. Because they don't have a nest. You know what I'm saying? Until they get a nest, they're not, because they're coming back. Like that's the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they just like in this summer, everybody was here and all their friends were always here. And in the summer, like 2 months ago, I was like, people leave. Everybody leave. Like give me my house back. There's
You're
stuff
like, I was
everywhere.
getting accustomed to this space and this decluttered
Right.
nature.
Yeah. So now I feel like it's a quiet, and then there's going to be a storm again. It's just, I like it. I like it. So,
well, it's good for me to hear these things because I have a 12-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So we're in the midst of just absolute chaos. And I'm like, is there ever going to be just like simplicity of life again?
No, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's so many different seasons. Talking about working out as well. You were talking about it, doing CrossFit. Like I find it's so different because early on, if you wanted to really get in shape, or you wanted to exercise, if you wanted to make that a value, you had to get up early in the morning. Right. And my wife and I, we were getting up at 5:30 in the morning doing, if you remember P90X, I don't know if you remember that, or Insanity.
Oh yeah.
We were doing that at 5:30 in the morning before everybody got up. And now I'm like, I'm not waking up at 5:30 in the morning for anything. So it's just season of life.
That's amazing. Well, Naeem, you have an incredible story, man. A wonderful testimony, which I think has uniquely placed you to really share the gospel in some ways with some unique perspectives, but also just to a unique swath of people, just the diversity right there in Charlotte, you being able to really speak to some of these, big cultural moments, but also what the gospel has to say about these things because of your own story. Why don't you take us back and share with us a little bit of your own testimony, how you came to know the Lord?
Yeah. So my story is really a story of a God who pursued me, a God who was looking for me and found me when I was not looking for him at all. I grew up in Kuwait. So I'm actually Pakistani, and what's interesting is I grew up in the Middle East. So Pakistan is very different. We speak Urdu there, and Arabic is the language that they speak in Kuwait, and that is the language of Islam. That's how everybody prays in Arabic. The prayers are always in Arabic and all that. Right. But my mom and dad put me in the Indian school. And then the curriculum was in English. And so it was really interesting. And you have all these experiences where you have Hindu friends who are like, I see them with idol worship, in their homes. They've got temples in their homes. And then we prayed in the mosque, and then we would pray on a mat. If there's a prayer mat that people pray on, and it's 5 times a day, this particular direction, particular language, all those things. And then the world around me was just very, very different. So when I first heard about Jesus, I had a very visceral reaction, and it was not a good one. Because here's what happened. My brother, who was older than me, so we were all living in Kuwait, right? My brother gets accepted to a college in the U.S. and it's in Charleston. Sorry, it's in Spartanburg.
Oh yeah,
South Carolina.
Yeah, Spartanburg.
Yeah. Okay. So you never heard of it, and it was called Spartanburg Methodist University.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So we were just so excited. We're like, oh, America, let's send him. Let's go. And so we send him there, and he comes back the next summer, and he tells me that he's a born again believer. And I'm like, born again what? What? And he said, I'm going to tell mom and dad, and I'm a Christian now. I'm no longer a Muslim. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Wow.
And so I grab his neck and I pin him against the wall, cuss him out. It gets physical. And he's shocked. I'm shocked about the reaction that I had. And he doesn't say anything to mom and dad. And then after the summer, he comes back to the States. So that was my first interaction or introduction to Jesus, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I had
Wow.
So I was like, okay, this is what I want or anything like that. So he comes back. And then if you remember, this is in the 90s. So Iraq, the neighboring country of Kuwait, invades Kuwait. So I wake up one morning and we are taken over. And then, so we're there in the Gulf War, survived the Gulf War, stayed through the Gulf War. So I was there from the occupation and also the liberation of it. And by the end, I mean, it was dire, man. It was like, we ran out of food, electricity. There was no money. I mean, and then the oil fires, that Saddam Hussein set fire to, and it was just a mess. So so my brother is still in the US. We're still in Kuwait. And my dad's like, hey, I can get you a tourist visa to come to the States. And so I'm like, okay. And so I come to the States, and I'm trying to figure out if I can get into college. That's my, I didn't graduate from high school. I was just trying to figure out what to do with my life. And my dad was like, figure it out, bro. Just do something. And I'm trying to do this. So I come here, and my brother's friends are all Christians, and they invite me to this thing called FCA. You heard of it?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. I had no idea. I was like, FCA? And I was like, not interested. It's a Christian thing. And he was like, yeah, not interested, bro. And he was like, no, man, there's some, and this is what he said, Dave. He said, there's some really cute girls there, man. And I was like, all right.
That sucked us all
so
in.
I showed up.
That sucked us all in. That was the...
Yeah. Yeah. And especially blonde people. I was like, what are these things called blonde people? Anyways. And so anyways, I show up. I hear about the gospel. I hear about this guy who sent his son, Jesus, and then I realized, that there's this God who is very different than I am in terms of like, there's a difference. And now I know this, where religion is basically, God, religion is basically, humanity trying to prove that they're worthy of the gods. So it's religion, all religion in some ways is basically a man trying to prove that he loves God. But then Jesus is proof that God loves us.
Wow.
Which was very different. And so I was like, this is so strange. And my brother was convinced if I asked Jesus to reveal himself, he would do it. And so I was like, this is so nuts and all that. But so we would argue and all that. And then a couple of weeks into it, I was just like, you know what? If this is even half true, I want to know. So I kind of had this thought. I looked up and I didn't say a prayer. I was just like, I want to know. This can't be right. So 3 nights later, bro, something radical happened to me. So 3 nights later, I'm in my room trying to fall asleep, and all of a sudden, I feel like my body is reacting to like fear and death, and I'm starting to sweat, and I'm like, what's happening? I look around, and all of a sudden, something grabs me, my shoulders, drags me, pins me to my pillow. Like I'm in my bed already, but it's pinning me to my pillow. So I start just like get out of it, and I can't move because something just sat on my legs as well. And now I'm paralyzed. The only thing I can move is my neck. And I'm like, I had not fallen asleep. I mean, I wasn't even asleep. I was like, the lights are on. I was like, what is happening? And so I just started yelling out, and come to find out I can't hear myself say anything. And I'm like, what's going on? And I can't explain it, man. I look around the room and I'm like, there's things in this room that I don't know how I can see them, but I can see them.
Wow.
I can sense them moving around. And I'm like, what? And in my head, I'm like, dude, wake up. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, wake up. This is a dream. This is a dream. And I'm like, this is not a dream. And then the door finally opens up, and I thought my brother heard me because he was in the other part of the house. And this door opens up, and in walks this thing, bro. And, like I said, I grew up as a Muslim. So I'm not, we weren't into demons and angels or vampires or Twilight. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like we were not into that. So I'm like, this walking demonic gargoyle looking thing starts walking into my room, and I am flipping out. Like I'm losing my stuff. Wow. And now I'm like, and then this thing starts communicating. It's like, I'm going to kill you. You're going to die. I mean, it's coming to get me. And I'm like, I'm praying to every God out there. You know what I'm saying? Right. Allah, Buddha, Oprah, Kanye. I don't even know.
Somebody help.
I'm like, just anybody, somebody. And so this thing's just closer and closer. And I think I don't know what's going to happen. And then let's go. Like everything, it disappears. Whatever was holding me, let's go. But the room is still weird. So I slowly get up, run out of the room, wake up my brother, tell him what happened. And man, this guy, like, as I'm telling him the story, he has a smile on his face, like a psychotic person. And I'm like, what are you smiling about? He's like, dude, this stuff is all real. And I'm like, what? And he said, it's in the Bible. And bro, I had never held a Bible. So I was like, what do you mean it's in the Bible? Like, I just thought it was a religious book, just like the Quran. And he was like, no. He says, Jesus encountered demons. And I said, demons are real? And he was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what is happening? And he started telling me like what could be happening and what God, God's purpose for my life, and the enemy's trying to come and do this and get rid of just spiritual warfare.
Yep.
And I'm thrown into this going, I just got done through a war, bro. I don't have time for demon issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to get in the like, what are you talking about? And I'm freaking out, still scared to death. And so he basically is like, dude, there's only one person I know who has authority over demons and angels. And I was like, okay, who? And he was like, Jesus. And I said, all right. So then he said, you want to pray with me? And I was like, yeah, okay, yes. But then before he asked me to pray, I was like, hey, listen, let me just pray something. Let me just say something. Because I never prayed to God, in my own language, which is Urdu. And then, so English is my third language. And then in Arabic is the prayers that we used to pray, in Arabic. So, and I just prayed. I said, Jesus, I don't know who you are. So I can't say you're the Lord of my life. I can't say I love you. I don't know you. But if you save me from this, I'll give you my whole life. And so I prayed that. Then my brother, asked me to pray and, for forgiveness and, salvation and all that. And then, amen. Open my eyes, and he's so excited, and I'm still scared to death, Yeah. And I was like, okay, now what? And he was like, all right, man, I'll see you in the morning. And I was like, I'm sleeping with you. And he was like, no, you got to go back in the room. And I'm like, no, man, I'm spooning you for like at least a month. You know what I'm saying? And, he goes, no, you go back in the room. And finally he convinces me, he gives me a Bible. It's smaller than my iPhone. It was a Gideon Bible, apparently. Those to-go Bibles or something. I don't even know.
Hotel rooms. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was like so tiny. And so I go in, I'm freaking out. And finally, an hour into it, man, I'm like so exhausted. I'm like, what am I doing? What just happened? Like, it's just a lot of things. And I'm like, did I just pray what did I just do? What? And I just get so mad at everything. And I went, shut off all the lights. I went back on my bed, and I looked up and I said, Jesus, if I die tonight, it is your fault. I don't even know why I said that. And I put the covers over my head. And then a couple of minutes later, Davey, like something happened that I really cannot explain. I felt like something was trying to wake me up, like shake me. And I was like, oh no, don't, in my head, I was like, don't open your eyes, don't open your eyes. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting on my bed with my eyes open. And there he was. And he said, I am Jesus, and your life is not your own. And man, I don't know, I can't explain to you what I was experiencing and seeing, because I remember thinking, I'm looking at you, but I'm inside of you.
Sure.
Like, I was like, I remember looking at him and then looking around like, am I in you?
Wow.
Like, what has happened? Like, and then
it's like his whole presence,
but
it like enveloped you, like everything.
It was just, and I just knew in that moment, I knew a couple of things. One, that this dimension that I lived in and what he lived in was like not the same, and this body could not be in that presence for that long. Like, I couldn't keep my eyes off of him, but I couldn't keep my eyes open. Like, I was losing control of my eyes. I was like, it was intoxicating. And yet I was like, I'm fading. I remember the last thing I was thinking, I'm going. I'm gone. And I woke up the next morning. I just had a download of I was supposed to be in ministry, give my whole life to him and to whatever. I didn't even know what it was. Like, I met Jesus. I had not met the church.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's probably a good thing that you had met the church first. Right?
Right. I didn't know anything about the church. I didn't know anything about denominations, the scriptures, nothing.
Wow.
And then, and that started a journey. And so my first book, Ex-Muslim, chronicles that. And then, man, supernatural stories like this how God used me uh, to lead my two sisters to Christ.
Wow.
I mean, supernatural stuff, man. And then, yeah, the whole journey of my younger brother coming to faith as well. And then, my, the mom navigating Muslim parents and being disowned and all those things. But in the midst of that, like seeing very supernatural things happen.
True.
So that's that book about, man. So
Can
God's been really amazing.
Can you, first of all, I mean, remarkable. I mean, I think what really strikes me is even just the nature of which, when you said, hey, I don't know who you are. I can't say that I love you, Jesus, but if you'll rescue me from this, if you'll save me from this, I'll give you my life. Most people in Western American culture, most people who grow up in the United States, they don't even know, when we say Jesus saved me, often, I mean, you did some ministry in the South. I grew up in Alabama. So it was like, what am I getting saved from? Like, everything's good. I mean, I'm fine, right? I go to church. It's my country club on Sundays. What am I getting? What am I actually? But you have a perspective of like, oh no, I felt like I needed to be saved from something. I literally felt threatened. And what a remarkable perspective to kind of even help us to understand a little bit more of that perspective of like actually how Jesus saves us, which is ultimately saving us from ourselves, but saving us from also what would entangle us and what would cause us that kind of a fear and trepidation. I mean, what an incredible testimony. And then to experience this supernaturally. I'm curious in your journey, I imagine you've probably seen more things supernaturally than what often we experience in Western American culture for some of the same reasons. My dad grew up in Haiti. He was a missionary's kid in Haiti. And then he took me back to Haiti, and I experienced for the first time when I was 12, just supernatural, like it's palpable, right? You could experience the supernatural, those two realms kind of touching, but we don't experience it as much here. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that in terms of, why we're experiencing it in other cultures, other countries, as it versus what we're experiencing here in the United States of America, especially as you've been doing ministry in the United States?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple of thoughts. I think one is connected to the kind of way to the two cultures process things. So in the Western world, it's very pragmatic. It's a lot of points, bullet points. It's step 1, 2, 3, 4. In the Eastern culture, it's storytelling. It's experiential. It's feel. It's a sense of not like an order of things. It's more even. It's felt. It's emotionally driven sometimes, or if not emotionally, it's like the value in the Western world is your brain. In the Western world, is like you are a genius. You are brilliant. This idea of like your mind, if you have the greatest minds, we celebrate the greatest minds. In the Western world, there seems to be a sense of like you have to have the greatest heart, and I don't mean just the heart, your inner person. You have this intuition about you. You're moved by you have this energy, whatever they want to call it. So that's why you see some, even like the Buddhist practices, they actually point to more of the Jewish ideology of an inner person, an inner man, your gut, where you're intuitive. You're not you just don't use your brain for everything. So I think God meets people in different ways. So when God, that's why I like books on not just theology, but also what's the word I'm forgetting here? Apologetics works here so well because why? Because we like, if I can convince you, beyond a reasonable doubt, I can convince you, you'll get it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work in the Eastern world. Like we don't care if it, no, but we don't feel, and it's different. The other thing too is that, for example, like, people have asked me like, why did you get this experience and I don't get this experience, Well, here's the issue. The issue is this, is like in the Western world, when people convert, like Davey, if you grew up, traditional, conservative, Christian, right? You go to college and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of into Buddhism. I'm kind of into this and I'm kind of into that right now. Or I'm kind of into this kind of vein of Christianity. It's acceptable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, they're like, oh man, he's just kind of out there a little bit. He's whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to say that. But in Islam, especially in the Arab and the Muslim world, when you're like, oh, I'm not into Islam anymore. Well, no, Islam is a nationality. It's a global nationality. So it's like how we're seeing here too, like in the U.S. It's scary to me because it's like Islam is a global nationality. Why? Because they practice Sharia law. So Sharia law is Muslim law, which is practiced by Pakistan, Kuwait, and now they're very different countries, Arab and Pakistan. That's first world, third world. But there is like this sense of like traditional or orthodoxy, in terms of Islam. They practice Sharia law, which punishes by death even people who convert. So I got religious asylum from the U.S. A couple of years into my salvation is because I didn't know. I didn't know that I couldn't go back. Like I could go back, but I would be trialed and imprisoned or executed. So because of that, because of so much proof that they had and stories and documents of like people being beheaded or whatever, they were like, okay, we'll give you religious asylum.
Wow.
And so I got it because of Pakistan and Kuwait. So all that to say, when Jesus comes to a person like in the West, because we're like Western minded, there's also a sense of like, I'm my own person and I can do that. And so we love the idea of, like I have a personal relationship with Jesus. This is my relationship with Jesus. And so it's my way. It's me, it's individual.
Yeah.
So now, and when you leave to follow, when I say, I choose to follow Jesus, no turning back, you're just thinking about you.
Yeah.
Honestly. Well, in the Western world, especially in my culture, the individual is not the deal. It's a corporate, it's a community. So when I leave to follow Jesus, I'm leaving my entire community.
Wow.
It is a big stinking deal.
Wow.
And that's why with Abraham's story, it was a big deal when God said, leave your family. Oh, we're not going back for Christmas or Thanksgiving. No, leave your family. You're going to start a whole different thing. And you're starting another, I'm going to make you father of many nations. Like I'm moving you from one community to a global community that you can be a part of, but you got to leave this. So, for me, I'm grateful that I got a experience with Jesus because, oh my gosh, to be disowned by my parents for a while, my best friend, leaving my cousins, no longer being able to talk to them, can't go back to my country because they'll kill me. I'm losing a whole lot of stuff.
Wow.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So I think God is so gracious. He's like, I'm going to give you a experience you cannot forget.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give you an argument that you believe in that you can refute. You know what I'm saying? So I think, but I do feel though, like even though regardless of how you come into this revelation of Jesus, you have to move towards not growing in your faith, but developing a close relationship with Jesus, because it's so easy for people to go, you know what? I used to believe this. I don't believe this anymore. We've heard this in the South. I used to believe that. I don't believe this anymore. Yeah. Because it's easy to walk away from a faith. It's harder to walk away from a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, you don't believe, but what about Jesus? Well, I never really met him.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I believed in the story. I believe the story, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down with the story. Yeah. John 3:16, bro. Got it. It's all good. Yes. I'm that camp. And then as soon as something else comes along, you're like, maybe that's not true. Because you never met him. And that's why Jesus would allude to this, He was like, many will come to me and tell me this and this. And you know what I'll tell them?
I never knew you.
I didn't know you.
True.
We didn't know each other. Like, I know you believed. I get that, but I didn't know you. Like, we never hung out. like, I'm glad you were like thumbs up to, what happened to me, but
Mm,
great. Anyways,
wow.
go off. So
It shines a whole new light on, when you see like the apostles, for instance, being willing to face their death, not
yeah,
because of not an ideology they believed, but because of something they witnessed. They knew Jesus and they watched. They were an eyewitness to the fact
yeah,
that he had the power to raise from the dead. It's like,
right.
wait, what?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'll give my life for that because there's something that transcends this life that I've witnessed, that I've been a part
right.
of.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
And I think Jesus offers that, and he does to all of us. It's just that it's so hard to just get caught up in the religion of it all
yeah.
and just miss it,
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah.
What would you say to someone, we talk about a lot of different kinds of suffering here on the Nothing is Wasted podcast because we have people listening, watching this from all over with all different types of pain points, as we call it, right? Things they're experiencing
Mm.
that is stirring up a lot of pain inside of their heart. And they're wondering, where is God in all of this? But, I've never gotten to sit across from somebody who's experienced actually that kind of disowning from their family or from their heritage because of stepping into relationship with Jesus. That's a pain point for a lot of people to wrestle through that. Obviously, as you're sharing this, you're going, yeah, but there's this. I mean, I was willing to carry that cross because of what I experienced, right? But talk about some of the wrestling within that maybe you experienced, and as you encourage others who have experienced the same thing, where they're going, hey, I'm following after Jesus now, and so my family's disowned me. Speak to that pain a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there are several different relationships I think of, but I think the most important one, or the one that's really critical, and it's the reason why I wrote the book that I wrote, the second book, Tomorrow Needs You, is because of my dad.
Mm,
So, my relationship with my dad was kind of interesting from day one. I would say I feel like I mean, he was great. So I like when I was like till about 10 years old, but as 11 after 11 years old, it felt like he couldn't really connect with me. I don't know what it was, but it was also he was working in Kuwait. He was trying to provide for us, five kids. So mom's at home, and, but anyways, we didn't really have like a lot of conversations about a lot of things. So he was not that, open, on
right.
things. And so it was just very much kind of business to do things. And so when he, provided a way for me to get to the States, his thing was, okay, be successful, do your thing. And then when he found out, when we told him about, that we were, you know, Christians, I mean, there was like this, what are you doing? Like, what's happening? And, but his problem was not really with me, becoming, a Christian, because his biggest issue was I said, hey, I'm going to be in ministry. And he was like, what is that? And I was like, well, I'm going to be like an imam. And an imam is a Muslim priest. And he's like, what are you going to be doing? I was like, I'm going to be working for the church and doing that. And that's when he was like, don't waste your life.
Oh, wow.
Like that's what he told me. He's like, don't waste your life. He's like,
Wow.
you're wasting it. It's like, I don't care what you believe, but don't throw away your whole life to this thing. And so, and then from then on, man, when I was in college, I worked all kinds of jobs, but then, when I started working for the church and my relationship with him, we were like, so it wasn't like, he would say, so how's business?
Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, I work for the church, right? And he was like, so it's good? It's good. Business is good. And I was like, business is good. Business is good. So we just never talked about it.
Yeah.
So he would just stop talking. So when he stopped talking, that was one of the things I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have a conversation with my dad about anything other than the weather, and or stuff that we need to do here and there. There was no heart to heart. There was no what's going on and all that. And so that was really rough. The pain points of like, even my best friend, we got into a fight. He came to visit. We got into a fight, physical altercation. It was a bad deal. Um, um, and yeah, I lost him for about, oh gosh, maybe 10 years.
Wow.
And then 10 years later, we rekindled, So yeah, I mean, the pain of loss of relationships was one of the big ones. But like I said, my dad was the big one because my dad is the reason I wrote Tomorrow Needs You, because he suffered from, he saw his family all, like his kids all become Christians. So, and then we, God's grace, we ended up in the US and all that, but then a lot of things happened, man. And then, you don't have time for that, and so he got to a very low point and he tried to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
So, and he was unsuccessful. And I remember talking to him after that experience, and that was the first time he got real after so long. And I said, Dad, well, are you all right? Like, what's going on? And he just said, hey, I'm just useless.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, Dad. He's like, I can't do anything right. And then he said, I can't even kill myself right. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, and then he was like, I said, Dad, we need you. Like, no, I was telling him all kinds of things. And he was like, no one needs me. I said, what do you mean? He's like, and then he looked at me and he's like, Naeem, you don't need me. You're living your life. You don't need me.
Wow.
No one needs me. And then that's when I was like, oh my gosh, Dad, no, I need you. Like, your grandkids need you. Look around. And that's what happens with grief and hope, where it tends to just overtake us so much that despair sets in, and then we're unable to see anything good in our lives. And that's why Jesus is like, hey, when worry comes, look at the birds. Like, have you noticed that? He's like, when worry and anxiety overtakes you, put your eyes on the beautiful things in your life, and remind yourself that God is still with you. Like, it's a very real, practical thing to do, but he couldn't see anything. And so, so that's why I wrote the book. But in the midst of that, I gotta share this, is that, he had a heart issue as well. And, anyways, so when you probably know this, but if you're on a suicide watch or something like that, if you try to do something like that, when you get to the hospital, they don't let family in. Family's not allowed to see them. So anyways, so we couldn't see him. And then right after, like a couple of days into it, he had an heart issue. So they moved him to another unit or another floor of the hospital. And that floor, you were allowed to have visitors. So we showed up, me, my brother, sister, we were there, and we were talking to him there, and he was like, he was talking about like just what he had done, and he was like, no one. And my mom was like so mad. So my mom refused to see him, which is, it's just ridiculous. But he was like, hey, no one, he was just so down. He was like, your mom doesn't want to forgive me. Shoot. He said, Allah, the God of Islam, is like, Allah's not going to forgive me, and I just said it. And I said, Jesus will forgive you. And he was like, really? And I said, he'll forgive you. I said, do you want to pray and ask for forgiveness? And he was like, yeah. So right there and there, my dad comes to faith in Jesus and prays and asks for forgiveness and invites him in. And then my mom gets even more mad at me. And then she finds out he did this. It was a mess. It was a mess. Wow. But yeah, God's in the middle of it. So,
my goodness. It's even just kind of thinking about your journey, thinking about your siblings' journeys, thinking about your dad's journey all of which Jesus shows up and meets them and meets you at what arguably all of you guys could say was somewhat of your lowest points where you're crying out and going, God, where are you? What do you mean for all of this? Thanks for sharing that, by the way, the inspiration behind this book. I mean, it's an incredible book. This Tomorrow Needs You. And I think it's such a timely message because there are so many people who they're really wallowing in despair and trying to figure out what is the significance that I can bring to the table, to bring to life, to bring to other people. And there's so much you circle in on fear a whole lot, and the kind of fear that would hold us back from really experiencing the fullness of what God has for us. When you talk about that, when you talk about fear, when you talk about anxiety, when you talk about these things that would hold us back, what exactly are you peel that back a little bit? What kinds of fear holds us back from experiencing everything God has for us? What keeps us paralyzed as we're wrestling through some of these questions? Like your dad's wrestling with, I'm useless. I have no value to bring to the table. You know, on some level, at the root of that, there's some fear involved with that too.
Yeah. I mean, fear is complicated. It's as unique as we are. You know, some of our fears is connected to our present reality. Like, I am unstable right now. My finances, my relationship with my spouse, like, or career at work. It's very clear and present danger kind of thing. You know, you're worried about it. Then there are some fears that is connected to regret. I have done so much. I have made so many bad decisions. I've allowed myself to be XYZ, and I've gotten to a place I will never get to a better place.
Wow.
And so there's a fear that's wrapped up in regret. It's like you're connected and you're bound to your past. You're like, I'm never going to get better. I'm never, because of what have happened. You know, I'm stable right now, but I'm never going to get to where I want to go. Like, I'm never going to, you know, and then there's fear of the future, right? The fear of the future of like impending danger, like, oh my gosh, you know? And so we have to understand fear is complicated. It does all these different things. And fear, it's interesting because some people go, you know, their answer is, hey, you got to be fearless, like reject fear, you know, you can't do that. And I feel like sometimes that's not really mature because fear is a good, I would say this, and let me qualify that. Fear is a good friend, but a terrible master. Like fear is a good friend to a kid because you're like, oh, I know that I should be afraid of this. I should not do this. I should not expose myself to this. Fear is good. It's given to us. The problem with fear is fear wants to lead us.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're like, it's like fear wants to make you its pet, and you've got to make it your pet.
Yeah.
So at some point, like either you're going to lead fear or it's going to lead you. Mm-hmm. And the only way to lead fear is to be led by something else. And so that's the one thing that actually the scriptures and Jesus talks about that can in fact lead and control fear in our lives is not faith or belief. Because I mean, we say that, right? We say that. In my book, I talk about it, how sometimes we've underserved people by telling them, hey, just believe and have faith because faith is the answer to fear.
Right.
It's not. It's actually just the opposite of it. It's just the opposite. It's the opposite of it. No doubt about it. It's the opposite, but it's not the solution. The solution to fear, the only thing that can control and drive fear is love. And so the scripture says, perfect love, God's perfect love, love that's perfected in you, a complete love that you know God completely loves you. You're completely secure in him. He sees you. He's forgiven you. He wants you in your life. He's working in your life. A completed love. The word completed or perfect love you've heard in the passage. Yep. That word is the word teleu, which means cannot grow anymore. It's done. Wow. So like God never has a relationship with us where he looks at us one day and goes, you know what? I think I love you more. We do that because our earthly love is not perfect. So we go, I love this more. I love coffee more than I used to. I love, this person more than I used to. I love my dog. I love my job more than I used to. When God loves us, he goes, when I love you with an everlasting love. I love you with an unfailing kindness. Like there is no more to give,
Wow.
that's why Jesus said, for God so loved in that kind of way, he gave everything. He gave his only son, a part of himself, you know? So, so when it comes down to our fears, I think what happens is that people just go, I just got to believe more. And then, if I just could believe this would happen, I'm such a horrible person because I can't believe. Now you just put anxiety over you and you're like, oh, what the, I'm not good. I'm not a good guy. If I was just having enough faith, I would not feel this way, and people, now you got guilt and shame on you that causes more anxiety and apprehension and fear. And oh my gosh. And I think my message in the book is, hey, stop it. It's not about your faith. It's about God's love. And so what he wants to do is he wants to show you that perfect love casts out fear, and love is a solution to fear. And so what we got to do is we got to move towards, what does love look like in a relationship with him, but also what does it look like to live in love?
Yeah.
So when I sign my book, I always write, live in God, in his love. And the reason is because like, living in his love, it's complicated, but it's simple. Living in his love means that he wants you to be led by love when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your career, when it comes to the life you're living out loud in front of you. In fact, there's a verse that this whole book actually is centered around, and it's where it talks about, in Hebrews, it says, let's look at Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. He says, here's what you need to do. This is the kind of life you need to live. Look at Jesus. He started your faith. He's going to end your faith. And then this is how he did it. Okay, look at him. He said, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. So if you just stop right there, you go, okay, this is how he did it. Jesus put a joy so much bigger, so much more beautiful in front of him that he had the power to endure the cross. And what was his joy? He saw, now I would like to think, he saw a beautiful humanity that had a so intimate relationship with God, who was in a loving relationship with God. And he said, that's worth dying for. That's worth dying for. That's worth going to the cross for. So he put a joy before him. So I think one of the most practical things we can do when it comes to our fear and anxiety is like, what is the joy that you're putting in front of you? Because the biggest joy that you put in front of you, it's the beautiful things in our life. It's the biggest, beautiful, most precious things in our life that actually dismantle the biggest fear in our life. So the biggest things before us dismantle the biggest things inside of us. That's why people run into a burning building to save a loved one.
Yeah.
We just intuitively do it. Why do we do that? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Why? Because you just see something so beautiful in danger. Right. The fear of losing your life, being burnt, being hurt, doesn't even phase you. Wow. That's why a parent will jump into an ocean if a kid falls off. They'll just do it.
Yep.
And so I talk about it in my book is like, hey, some of the things that we can do when it comes to grief and pain in our life and trauma, because the book is actually, every chapter is a story of someone that's gone through traumatic stuff. So it's a PG-13 book, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to make you cry. It's going to make you stop and go, I don't know if I want to finish reading this because it might bring up, because I've heard this from people. It's got sexual abuse in there. It's got suicide, like pretty intense suicide situation there. I mean, it's got some stuff, but people coming out of that, they have always, that's the constant. They put a beautiful vision, beautiful relationship, beautiful goal, beautiful community, beautiful hope in front of them. That's so big, that it dismantles, conquers the anxiety and fear in their life. So
it's amazing. True. That's beautiful, Naeem. I mean, and so grateful that you have put pen to paper on this. And I can't help but think about the fact that, like, this is where God brought you, because you go back to that experience where you are being trapped and strapped down by the enemy and your heart is full of fear.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't, you didn't have faith to dispel that fear, but it was the presence of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
That caused all of that to be completely eradicated in your own life. And now you're coming with this different perspective going, hey guys, this really is the antidote here. It's not just to have more faith. It's not just, it's like you got to experience God. That's what you need to experience God. Tell him, hey, Jesus, reveal yourself to me. Yeah. Let me see your perfect love.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting about it is like this idea of even in the Western, we were talking about Western and Eastern, differences. Like the idea of having faith is a very Western thing, because in the Eastern thing, you don't have faith, you live faith.
Wow.
So it's not like, oh, I have faith and I'm going to do this. No. You walking with uncertainty and risk in a dimly lit situation, when you're doing that, running in the dark, we call it faith.
That's faith.
Running in daylight, you're just running. Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's not about having faith. I don't even know what having faith is. That's why James talks about in the book. He's like, you have faith? Great. That's awesome. Demons do too.
Yeah.
If it's not lived out, it's not faith. It's dead.
Faith.
It's like, what are you talking about? Wow. It's a dead body. So I think when I put something before me, and I want your, pastors and like, even, in the midst of like, I mean, shoot, this, you've been a pastor, there are times and seasons you want to quit every Sunday. Right. Yeah. You're like, this is, and you have a high, and then the Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon, you're like, this bites. Yeah. Like, why I don't want to do this anymore, and then you get back into it. Tuesday, staff meeting. All right, we're going to do this again.
It usually takes about till Tuesday, right? Monday, you're still kind of on that spiritual hangover.
And then you go, and then you go, why? What's wrong with me? This should not be so hard.
Yeah.
And, but when you go through all of those things, you go, like, okay, I got to have a beautiful goal, vision that God's given me, because that's the only way that it's going to allow me to move in faith. Like, for example, like the definition of faith in Hebrews, it says faith is the evidence of things hoped for. Right? So here's the thing. What if there's nothing you're hoping for?
Wow.
If you're not hoping for anything, guess what you don't need? Faith. So that's why people don't need faith. You're not moving in faith.
Yep.
Why? Because they're not hoping for anything.
Yeah.
But once you put a hope, a joy out there, guess what? It has to work. You just put faith to work, because faith is the evidence of things hoped for.
Wow.
That's what gives its job to faith. Faith gets up and has to do something when there is a giant hope in front of you. And hope only exists in the future, not in the past. So that's why God says, forget the things in the past. Yeah. If I was there, but I'm here. Take this hope, put it in front of you. It's in the future. Go for it. And once you move towards hope, I guarantee you will use your faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
if you just live in the present.
Yep.
I don't know if you have faith to live in the present. Like, you just live in.
Absolutely.
Is that making sense?
Yeah. Faith requires, on some level, it's akin to desperation, right? It requires some kind of like, I can't do this. There's no way. I'm on an edge right here.
Yeah.
Staring down the edge of this cliff and trying to figure out, I got to either jump or like I can't go back. I got to go forward, but it's going to be propelled by something that we put in the future. I love that. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame.
Yeah.
Right? This is the message of what Jesus came to embody for us. Like, put this out in front of us. Paul says it just like you said, not that I've already attained it, right? But I stretch outward. I continue for this, the hope the prize that I have not yet received.
Yeah. I
And
mean, all of that is a beautiful vision. It's a hope. It's something before you. And I think people live in despair. Like one of the stories, can I share one story?
yeah.
Okay. So one story is, it's in the book. It's my sister. So on the anniversary of my dad passing away. So, he passed away. And then the anniversary of his passing away, all of a sudden, my sister's husband died of a heart attack. And they had just had a 7-month-old and a 7-year-old.
Wow.
And it was so sudden. She was in South Carolina, Charleston. I'm in Charlotte, about an hour and a half away or something. And she calls me and she tells me this. And I'm like, what? And she's in shock. We're all in shock. My mom's in shock. It was like, it's crazy. And she was like, I'm not, and we're close. And she was like, I said, okay, I'm on my way. And she didn't know what EMS was there. Everybody showed up, but she was waiting for me to show up before they take the body away. And I was like, girl, what? So it was just so traumatic.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all of that, I remember having to, and you've experienced this, having to talk to a kid about someone dying. That's just, but man, my sister it was so sudden. You know what I'm saying? It's a sideswipe. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it wasn't like a sickness. It was just like, it just happened.
Right.
That she told me, a year into just her life, we had to move her and all that. She said something. She's like, I love God, but I don't know if I trust him. And I was like, yeah, fair. That's fair. And he's okay to hear that. Yep. We don't have a high priest that's not sympathetic to our, he gets it. And I said, I'm glad you're telling him that. He said, and she was like, yeah, I'm telling him. I'm like, I love you. But I don't know if I can trust you with my family, because you let all kinds of things happen. And I think that is a very raw place. And I want to encourage your listeners to be there, to have that conversation, because that leads to an intimacy that they've never experienced before. That's right. So good. Whew. We talk about that often, Naeem. We talk about the idea of wrestling, that God's not intimidated by these big questions. These kinds of circumstances are going to cause these questions to arise inevitably, because our circumstances aren't lining up with who we thought God to be. And if we take those questions to him and we wrestle with those with him, then he's going to peel back even more, reveal to us his character and nature that causes us to fall more in love with him. It causes us to see even more his perfect love in our lives, and shapes a different paradigm and perspective for us, so that we have an eternal perspective, that we're able to begin to see things the way that he sees things. I think it was Timothy Keller that said that God gives us everything we would ask for if we knew everything that he knows. Whoa. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So when I'm not seeing through your eyes, God, would you help me to see that? And part of that journey is wrestling. It's an inevitable, integral part of that journey. Yeah, and for sure. It is. And it's in the wrestling that makes you get intimate. That's right. It's in that wrestling. It's like, it's like the, count it all joy when bad things happen. Why? Because you're about to get close to God. That's right. Wow. So, man, Naeem, I feel like, this conversation just flew by. I feel like we could go down maybe 5 or 6 more rabbit trails and talk about so much more. So whenever. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We're going to make sure that everybody has a convenient place to access this book. Tomorrow Needs You. The subtitle is Seeing Beauty When You Feel Hopeless. Tomorrow Needs You, Seeing Beauty When You Feel Hopeless. And we're going to put a link right here in the show notes. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put it right below the YouTube video. Naeem, where else can we follow you, man? Where can we track what's going on with you? Yeah, with I'm on the gram, I'm on Instagram, websites, all that. It's my name. I got in early, and so it's just my name. You can find me there. Yeah. Awesome. Well, man, thanks for spending time with us. This has been so encouraging. Oh man, thank you. It's been a joy for sure.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Nothing is Wasted podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation and found it as encouraging and insightful as we did. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen, and leave us a rating and review. Your feedback helps us to connect to those who need these stories of hope and healing most, and to reach more listeners just like you. Also, subscribe to our Nothing is Wasted Ministries YouTube channel. Now be sure to stay connected with us on social media. You can follow us at Nothing is Wasted Ministries. Follow me at Davey Blackburn. We'd love to interact with you, so be sure to stop by and let us know how these conversations are impacting you and your story. And if you want to learn more about all the incredible resources we have available to help you navigate whatever valley you're walking through, visit our website at nothingiswasted.com. If you're ready to get started in your journey towards healing and finding purpose in your pain, we'd love to help. Simply go to nothingiswasted.com/start here for your next step. We want to thank our guests, and we want to thank you, our Nothing is Wasted community, for tuning in regularly. Remember, no matter what challenges you face, whatever pain you are walking through, nothing is wasted. We'll see you next time for another incredible conversation here on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. But before you go, check out this short clip from our next episode. Thanks for joining us, friends. It's like the disciples, or the apostles at this point, were thrown in prison, and instead of asking God for protection or safety, they asked God for courage, boldness. Would you empower us with the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead to be able to walk through whatever cross we're going to have to walk through?
Yeah. Which is so prevalent in today.
I mean, yeah.
You couldn't.
It's almost, and I can hear myself the way you just language that. I can hear myself 3.5 years ago, always praying protection.
Wow.
And I know my prayers now, and it's given me courage and strength.
Yeah.
So to hear you putting those two together, and it's almost like you don't want to be the Debbie Downer of every party.
Yeah.
But you want to teach people this, to be able to go, well, hold on now, because, and my only reason I want to teach it is when I prayed for protection, and protection in my eyes doesn't come, but we now have a fork in the road.
Yeah.
When I pray for strength and courage, it allows me to go whatever comes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And 39 months ago, I had a fork in the road.
Wow.